Hey everyone, welcome back to another video of Cosplay with Rena. And as you can tell from the title of the video down here, as well as the thumbnail, and from what I have right in front of me here, we're actually tackling a video that took a while in the making, but I'm very happy to show you how I tackled it. It's my Mega City 1 Street Judge helmet from the 2012 film Dredd. So basically this is the helmet that I've actually replicated. It actually started off as a raw fiberglass kit that I got on eBay, and the rest of the sources I actually used on the information that I used to replicate this, I actually learned it from Studio Creations, which I'll leave a link down in the description below if you're interested in replicating yours. But essentially but that particular website, as far as I'm aware, he actually has access to one of the original helmets from the movie once production is wrapped, and that all requires about how the painting was done, the measurements, the coloring, and also the placement on the visor itself, which I'll explain it throughout the video. So without further ado, let's get straight to it. So basically how I started this helmet is that this started off as a fiberglass helmet kit, which means this was fresh out of the mold when I first got it. And me and my assistant of mine actually get to work as far as like cleaning up some of the excess flashing, filling in any cracks or whatnot that so wouldn't be bothered. And once that step's done, this basically leads to painting. Now, according to the Studio Creations website, you basically had to coat the helmet with some gloss black spray paint as the base layer, and as for the red panels, which you would also find in the link with all the information you need to know, I basically used a Rust-Oleum color on red, which is basically the closest red to the closest red that is used on the original helmets from the movie. So I went with that, and then when it came to the weathering, it's just a matter of fact of doing dry brushing some silver rub and buff onto certain areas, giving it a black and brown acrylic wash. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention too is that for the badge right about here, which you would also find in the footage as well, I basically used some gold rub and buff, the same gold rub and buff that I actually used for the shoulder pauldrons on my armored vest. And I brushed it in one direction, and for some reason, I actually quite like the look of it because it gives it that brushed metal look that helps it stand out and match the rest of the armor. And once I actually was happy with the results, I clear coat everything with a matte clear coat, just so it not only helps it make it look more weathered and more realistic, but if I ever thought about doing, let's say, like some fan films or whatnot of me wearing the rest of the armor, including the helmet, then the cinematography or the lighting would help pick up all the fine details, so it wouldn't be reflect amongst the studio lights or the camera, which is how this was being recorded. So once the paint stage is done, now we move on to the visor. Now for the visor, which I'll leave a link down in the description below, it took a lot of trial and error in order to make sure this looks right. Because at one stage I actually went with Velcro, the other stage I went with hot glue, and the other stage I went with liquid nail. And because of the fact that there's actually too much pressure involved, it just doesn't want to stick, and in result makes a sort of a big mess, which you would see in this shot right about here. Yikes. So, but luckily, someone close to me actually suggested that I should drill a hole right about where this area here is, which will be bolted onto the helmet and the visor, and I filled it in with some body filler, and I had to repaint that as well, which in case of you are wondering, if you are going to see certain shots where this surface here looks different, that what I just explained is pretty much the reason, because I was experimenting on getting the visor to fit properly. So so for that, hopefully this will help you. And other than that, came out better than I expected. Also, another thing to keep in mind too is that that little gap there, that's also another note from Studio Creations that mentions that that little gap right about here, it is also notified on Studio Creations that gap is accurate on the original helmet, as and not as flush as what most people would think. Which from what I read about, the gap on the original helmet is about 5 to 10 millimeters, but this one is a much further gap, which I'm not really concerned about, because this is basically like my take on the Judge helmet for my own personal street Judge. So but although actually the visor is actually really good quality, I can see through, but you can't see my eyes in, which is something that you actually wanted in a helmet like this. Now we get to move on to the padding. Now for when it comes to the templates for the padding on this helmet, I basically downloaded a link from Studio Creations, who they also had the patterns for the padding on this helmet, like down here, but on this section here, I do have to Frankenstein it, just so it'll reach onto the very ends, and also some of them don't actually need to be fabric wrapped because it's all hidden, like you wouldn't be able to see it. But basically what I did is I cut it out of quarter inch foam, and I cut and sewed and wrapped some black fabric to make it look movie accurate, while still remain some comfort onto my cheeks. And I just hot glue them in there, and for the final results is that if you look at the behind the scenes videos of Carl Urban wearing the original helmet, you see one of the set crews actually coating it with some powder to give it a dusty effect, which is very reminiscent of Mega City 1. So up on my end, which I haven't done any recordings about, is I grabbed one of my paintbrushes and I actually added some baby powder and brush it into certain areas where there'll be dust collecting, but also areas where the dust would have sit on, just like how it was in the film. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the end results. So later on throughout this year, I will be showing you the complete process on the uniform, like how I tackle the boots, and most famously, just as famously as the helmet itself, the Lawgiver. So stay tuned for that one. So without further ado, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram for any future content. And without further ado, I'll see you in the next video. In that case, duty calls.